Way, way back in the time of the ancient Greeks, some people thought about the nature of matter. Now, they thought about it because they couldn't really do any experiments regarding the nature of matter. Thousands of years ago, they didn't have the tools that we have now. So they had to philosophize about where matter came from and what matter is made of. These people that thought about it were called philosophers. After a lot of philosophizing, these philosophers would come up with different ideas or different models used to explain matter. There were two competing models in the early Greek times about what matter really was made of. The first theory was called the essence theory of matter, which was devised by Aristotle. Aristotle came from the belief that there were four elements: earth, fire, wind, and water. And Aristotle actually added one to that, which was ether, which is kind of the element of the heavens. So anyway, this essence theory of matter assumes that different elements gave matter different properties. Aristotle's model theorized that all matter had a fundamental essence that gave it its properties. By thinking this, gold wasn't really made of gold atoms, but was instead this material that had the gold essence. Because this model didn't require the belief in something that was basically invisible, this is the one that people actually believed. So for a couple thousand years, people actually believed that all matter was comprised of these five elements: earth, fire, wind, water, and ether, and that they were made of just different combinations of these elements. Now, the atomic theory of matter was devised by Leucippus and recorded by Democritus. Now, Democritus really gets credit for the idea, but he was just the student of Leucippus who recorded Leucippus's ideas. Still, he wrote it down, so he gets credit. This is a good example of how you should always show your work. Now, this theory assumed that matter was made of atoms that were infinitely small and indestructible, that they traveled through empty space. Atoms could also combine in various ways, and changes in these combinations led to changes in the type of matter they made. This is a pretty good description of a chemical reaction. Democritus, however, couldn't prove that he was correct, and he wasn't very persuasive, so most people believed in Aristotle, and these two would have public debates over what matter was made of. Aristotle meaning the five major elements, and Democritus believing that all substances were made of these tiny little particles called atoms. And to try to humiliate Democritus, Aristotle frequently called Democritus an atomist, as to shame him for thinking this preposterous idea. Nobody really questioned Aristotle and what he had to say until the Enlightenment period, which is where the dawn of experimental science started, which caused scientists to question these long-held beliefs.